feet of the chamber on him. And how do you do that? First 6 seconds, point A to point B, everything you got. Everything you got. Turn that shit up. Let's go.
Welcome to the Morning Scoop. It is Wednesday, August 10th. I can't believe I'm saying that. Football is right around the corner. The Buckeyes are in the middle of Hell Week right now. It is the long week of camp where these guys have, 6 straight days. They're in the hotel. They've got a big scrimmage on Saturday. The days are very long. The bodies get very sore. They get very tired. Again, those guys get to the building at 6:45-ish, and they get home back to the hotel about 9:30 at night. So long days at the Woody Hayes. A lot of hurry up and waiting after the morning practice. So it is a tough time to be a football player. It's a great time to be a fan, though. So that's the one thing I don't miss about football is training camp. So that being said, we are on a huge growth spurt right now. Thank you guys so much for subscribing to the channel. We're building this thing up. Please leave us a like. That does a ton for the algorithm, helps people find the content. Comment on what's the craziest recruiting story you've heard in the last 15, 20 years of following recruiting. A lot of you guys are diehard recruiting guys. I'm going to bring on the master of recruiting, our own Bill the Bank Greene. Bank, how are you tonight?
Good, Kirk. How you doing?
Oh, I'm good, man. So we're going to go walk down this Dijon Johnson stuff a little bit because this was kind of going down on Friday. It was my wedding anniversary. Me and you were kind of glued to the phone talking to each other. And so what's going on with Dijon? This was a wild one, and you're a guy you're a Florida guy through and through, and you've seen wild. And what are your thoughts on how this thing all shook out?
Yeah, I mean it's pretty crazy. You had a decommitment from Ohio State not all that long ago, and then he went to the Florida Friday Night Lights, and it was rumored that he would leave there as a Florida commit or be one shortly thereafter, and it just never happened. And then late last week, I think there was a conversation with Tony Alford, and that seemed to go pretty well. And, the rumors were flying that he was coming back into the class, as soon as Saturday, which, we knew that wasn't going to happen because there was a call with Ryan Day scheduled for Sunday. And personally, I really thought that meeting would, result in things being put back together, both from Ohio State's point of view and from Dijon's point of view. And I thought, I thought by Sunday night, I really thought he would be back in the class, and I was dead wrong on that one, So that's a big L for me. Obviously, that Zoom call with Ryan Day didn't exactly go the way all parties expected it to go. You know what I mean? For Ryan Day, as you mentioned, starting camp. Now, there's no reason for him to do a 1-hour Zoom call with a kid he's not interested in. Okay. Mm-hmm. So, and for Dijon's looking at every option. There's no reason for him to do a Zoom call with Ryan Day if he's not really interested in Ohio State. So I think, I think all the conditions were right for him to leave Sunday night, that call being recommitted back to Ohio State, and that did not happen. So for whatever reasons, the kid's back looking for his school right now. It won't surprise me if he's committed within 5 minutes of this call ending, or all the way to the second signing day. So there's a lot of moving parts here with this one. I think the kid's a good kid. The guys that I know that know him, the Florida guys, they really like him. They really think he's a good kid, and everybody knows he's one heck of a football player. So got to see where this thing goes. I mean, the way I look at it, been in this recruiting thing for 20 years, there's no reason for him to pick a school today. Why? What's the urgency? You know what I mean? Take a step back. Your season's going to be starting soon. Kick back and just back off recruiting for a while and let your head clear, and then, figure it out. He's got a long way until he signs anything. And I just feel like there's a sense of urgency right now with his recruitment that really doesn't need to be there. There are tons of uncommitted blue chip prospects right now. So I have no say in this thing. I don't know the kid. He doesn't know me. I would just like to see reset button hit and just take a step back, get ready for your season, and get back into recruiting here in a couple of weeks. There's no sense of urgency to get this done today.
Yeah, and as you mentioned in pre-show, you said that it's not an NIL deal with Ohio State, because that's something that we've gone back and forth with. Maybe not me and you, but was Ohio State outbid? You feel like that is not the case, correct?
No, I don't think that's an issue at all. I think it's more just, what does he want to do? Does he need to be close to home? Is it cool if he's 1,000 miles away in Ohio? Florida's recruiting him really hard. Florida's got Corey Raymond there. Corey Raymond's put a lot of guys in the NFL, and he can stay closer to home there. Miami is doing great recruiting right now with Mario Cristobal and that outfit, so they want him pretty badly. He committed to Ohio State for a reason. He loved Ohio State, and it wasn't that long ago that he was in love with Ohio State and committed. So I would think all those conditions are still there. So I do not think this is an NIL thing at all. I think it's just, him deciding where he wants to be, and then that's, that's up to him. He's the one that has to live there. He's the one that, needs to put his trust in a position coach and a head coach to develop him for the NFL. So I don't think NIL was, I think Ohio State's fine there, even though, a lot of people don't seem to think so. But I think Ohio State's fine there. And I don't think this is an NIL casualty at all.
Now, and this isn't necessarily directed to Dijon, but this is something I've just noticed in recruiting in general. Do you think, I'm sure the answer is going to be yes to this, but does NIL cloud some of the vision for some of these kids? I feel like some of these kids, they kind of know where they want to go, but other schools throw out numbers that flat out could just be fictitious, and
Right.
It's going to be fascinating to see how many of these kids show up at a doorstep and, hey, where's my $1 million or whatever the number is. And then, we got 30 grand for you here, but if you win a national title, you'll get $1 million. Or, like how many of these things are going to go up in smoke after the kid gets to campus, and how's the kid going to react? Does it transfer out? Like, do you see a lot of that now? Because you talk to your guys in South Florida, you talk to guys all over the country. Is that a thing now?
Yeah, it is, and it never has been a thing. You went through the recruiting process. There are a lot of variables into choosing a school. Well, money's never been one of them. You know what I mean? I don't think money was a big thing to you when you were, going through the recruiting process, and now it is. I mean, it's a huge factor. Of course, it's, it's. I think it is causing some consternation, not necessarily with Dijon Johnson, but I think it's an extra factor that a 17-year-old kid now has to weigh when he's trying to make, to this point, the most important decision of his life. So, yeah, money, when does money not cloud things in any facet of life, and like, they always say it's not about the money, but it usually always is about the money, and that is true for these kids, and then when you add in, at least if you're signing, a contract for the NFL, that money's going to be there. Okay. The guaranteed part, or Major League Baseball. This money, like you said, you can promise anything right now, and it may not be there. So we could be hearing some absolute horror stories when this podcast is done 2 years from today. There could be some just horrific stories, and that's why for me personally, we don't have all the facts right now of how things are going to go with these collectives and everything, but you can kind of look and see, like at a place like Ohio State, CJ Stroud has proven himself, and CJ is doing really well. Jackson Smith-Njigba doing really, really well. I would guess someone like Jack Sawyer is going to do really well with NIL. So, and I kind of think that's the way, the way it probably is intended to go. You kind of you should have to be somebody, to get the money. And I don't know, some of these schools are, promising money up front, but the kid better get that money up front. Because like you say, once you sign that letter of intent, that's binding, till you decide to transfer, but that money is not binding. It may be, but it may not be. And my feeling is we're going to hear some horror stories in another year or two.
Yeah, I think that it reminds me a lot of the kind of the evolution of the offer. How, when I got offered by Jim Tressel, I could commit and I have a spot. I'm in the boat. It's over. But now coaches will offer a ham sandwich. Because it's just like they'll send out 500 offers and there's like 5 that are actually committable. There's this
Yeah.
nonsense committable. Not, and again, I get it because if you're talking to some kid who's from South Florida and you don't offer him, then you'll never
He's not
hear
coming to
from him
camp.
again. Yeah, he'll never
Yeah.
come to camp. So it's like, but the offer doesn't really mean anything. That's kind of how,
No.
if I would have, that's all these NIL deals will turn out. It's like, hey, it turns out that $1,000,005 really wasn't, it was really 200 grand or 500 grand or 5 grand or
And maybe 5 grand, and if you turn out to be an All-American, then that money is going to be there. And if you
Yeah.
turn out to be a third string QB, that money's not going to be there, I don't think. But we don't know yet. Like I said, that's why this is, I don't know. There needs to be some sort of regulation here. I don't know where it's coming from or how that's going to come. But, like I said, there are a lot of promises being thrown out there right now. I want to see what happens 2 years from now. How many of these promises are realized?
Yeah, and like Urban used to always reference like the uncle or the third uncle in recruiting, and it's like I can't even imagine the type of like nitrous this is thrown into the mix where all of a sudden like there's real money on the table now, and
Right.
people that never cared about these kids now are going to come out of the woodwork to try to hey, go here because you'll get $1,500,000 and I can get 50 grand or I can stop working. Or I mean I guess I had guys I played with that were going to be first round picks, and their uncle say, "Oh, I don't have to work no more," and it's like, "No, you still got to go to work, dude." Like, I mean, I wouldn't say that because it wasn't me, but it was just like I had teammates, and there's a reason why a lot of my teammates have changed their phone numbers like every 3 months because they got tired of people trying to give them bridge loans or whatever, and it was really kind of sad. It is sad, and it happened to a 16, 17-year-old kid, which I'm sure is going to be real prevalent now. It's even worse. But have you heard of like some things like that?
Yeah. Oh, there are people trying to get in with these kids. And that was the thing. They thought when NIL came about, it would remove a lot of the shadiness and dirtiness because you would just operate directly. But now there are guys trying to broker deals for kids, and they're not doing it out of the goodness of their heart, So it's just, I don't know. I think we're going to look back in a couple of years on NIL, and there's going to be a lot of stories that are not going to be pretty.
Yeah,
And there could be careers ruined over this, that if there was no money involved, the kid picks the school for the right reasons and goes on to become an NFL player.
Yeah.
But with money involved, you could make a bad decision, and a bad decision could cost the kid his career down the road.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you go somewhere that you don't want to go to, and obviously I was a guy that I was happy to get my Ohio State offer, and that was kind of it for me. I didn't want to look anywhere else. I didn't care about anywhere else. But not every kid's like that. Not every kid.
No.
In Ohio, there's only one school. There's Ohio State. That's it. I mean, in Florida, there's the U. There's the Seminoles. There's you're closer to Georgia, Bama.
Sure.
In Ohio, it's kind of like if you go to Ohio State, you're the man, and that's where you want to go, and it's where you want to prove yourself. And it was easy for me. But I mean, I couldn't imagine like if Pittsburgh would have came in with like a $500,000 or $1 million, and my single mom was like, "Well, man, I really wish you'd go to Pittsburgh and help me out and pay my rent."
Sure.
And because I mean that's what's going to happen is these kids will like dream of going to a school like Ohio State, like me, and some school will come in with a sack of money and say, "Man, I really wish you'd go there and help mom out, and help grandma out, and whatever." And I don't know.
I get it. I get it. I'm sure you get
suck.
it. As you were raised in a household. Your father passed away when you were young, and I'm sure you can relate to this more than a lot of other people can.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it's like you gotta tell these kids, man, you want to go to the place that'll best prepare to get to the NFL and a place that you want to play. And like I mean, for me, I loved Stanford. I had a Stanford offer, but Ohio State won the national championship. It's in Ohio. My mom can drive to the games. And it's Ohio State. So like I want to prove myself against best because when Stanford back in 03, Stanford was like a 60-point underdog to like USC. Like they weren't the Stanford of the Harbaugh era where they were actually
Yeah.
pretty good and competent, and Christian McCaffrey. It was like they were terrible. And I was like, I didn't. One thing that if I could avoid ever being an underdog in life in terms of like the actual betting line, I'd like that because like Ohio State's favored to win every game. So it's like you're gonna have a chance to have really good teams and really good teammates, but you go to Stanford, you're probably the dog in every single game. So I mean, you're gonna go out there and lose 65-10 against USC. I'm like, man, this sucks. But at least I got a good degree. But I don't know. I always wanted to be able to be on a competitive team like Ohio State. So that being said, I know you're not big into the camp stuff, but we got Notre Dame coming up. Bank, it's almost 3 weeks away. It's almost here, which is amazing. Your thoughts, 3 weeks out from Notre Dame. Obviously, they haven't named a quarterback yet. Their offensive line is good. Their defense will be, I'm sure, very tough. What are your thoughts sizing up the Ohio State Notre Dame matchup from 3 weeks out?
Yeah, and I am probably the least guy that buys all the camp info that comes out after week one, but I read it and I can't get enough of it like everybody else, but I guess I've seen so much over the years that I just want to see the ball go on the tee. I can hear about Jack Sawyer dominating practice, and I believe it because I believe in Jack, but yet I want to see Jack dominate Harry Hiestan's offensive lineman. That's what I want to see. So, yeah, Notre Dame, I think there are a few things that I think Marcus Freeman can draw on, and he's the underdog for a reason here. You talked about being an underdog. I think they're a 16, 17-point underdog. That's a lot. You're supposed to get mopped when you're a 16-point underdog, and I get it. I mean, Ohio State is the more talented team. When you look at what does Marcus have going for him, the one thing is they did play Oklahoma State last year, so they got a firsthand knowledge of Jim Knowles. He also got firsthand knowledge of what they want to do. And I think the Notre Dame game plan, I think it's going to be pretty simple, Kirk. I think they're going to have to be Michigan. And we don't expect Ohio State is going to be the same team that played Michigan that day. But that's what Marcus is going to have to draw on. He can't come out and go four wides, quarterback in the shotgun, throw it all over the field, stun a high. That's not going to work. He doesn't have those kind of people. Okay, he doesn't have that kind of skill. He doesn't have that kind of quarterback. He is going to have to look to run the ball, control the game, play with the lead. He's going to have to watch that Michigan film 500,000 times between now and when they put the ball on the tee. And he's got to find a way to be Michigan and force Ohio State to be the Ohio State team that showed up that day. That's his only path to win. I mean, I think Ohio State has a lot of different ways they can beat Notre Dame. They can throw it over their heads. I mean, they've got so many weapons that they can turn to. I think they're going to be able to mash the ball this year with Travion Henderson, Matt Jones in that lineup. I think there are a lot of options Ryan Day has to win this game from an offensive point of view. For Marcus Freeman and Notre Dame, they have one path. They have to run the ball, control the game, control the clock, make first downs, and that's a slim path when you're playing a team that's more talented than you. But I think that's his only path to win. I don't know what you think of that, but I think his options are really limited offensively.
Yeah, I completely agree. It honestly reminds me of like Perry with Keith Wakefield. I mean, it was run the ball, keep the skill off the field. Yeah, like when you play team like Perry, everyone had better talent than we did, so we had to run the ball, keep the offense off the field, keep C.J. Stroud and Jackson Smith and Jigba and Trey off the field on the sideline. Yeah, it's what Michigan did. You want to punch him in the mouth. And again, like if you look at Michigan and Utah, like why would you differentiate from those game plans where they ran for 250 plus? I mean, we haven't proven we can stop the run yet. So I mean, might as well try it. And you got a new quarterback making his first start. You can't expect him to have some sort of, like the Virginia Tech quarterback that had like this virtuoso performance. Like you can't always expect that. And and again, like everyone thinks this will be a cakewalk, and I think that we should win handily. But I remember like there could be a weather factor, like in the 2015 Michigan State game where they had a backup quarterback and it poured down rain, and the most talented Ohio State team that I think I've ever seen, crap the bed, because we couldn't do anything in the weather, and they just stayed close and kicked the game-winning field goal. So it's like, I don't think that'll be the case with Ryan Day's offense and the way we throw the ball, but it's something where I think that Notre Dame's just they have to run the ball behind their offensive line, take the pressure off that quarterback, and keep Marvin Harrison Jr. and Emeka Ibuka and Jackson Smith-Njigba on the sideline, because they're just too good. You can't cover all three of those guys. And and Ryan does. Ryan, I think he's going to pound a little bit more this year with Justin Fry, who's one of his best friends, is the offensive line coach and kind of the pseudo run game coordinator. And I believe that my favorite formation that they run is when they're on the tight end wing with the two tight ends. They put Cade and either Joe Royer or whatever, or Mitch Rossi, and they put those guys into the short side of the field, and then to the wide side of the field, you put Marvin Harrison and Jackson Smith-Njigba. So it's like, if you don't, load up to the field where those guys are, he's going to run into the boundary and he's going to kill you, because you're not going to have enough guys. So
You're
it's
outnumbered. You're outnumbered at the point of attack, and then you got Travion Henderson makes one. You're already outnumbered, and then he makes one guy miss, and you're going to hear the band play.
Exactly. And he's thicker this year. He's not the skinny freshman that he was last year. And again, you always hear about running backs that wear down, but he hit a cement wall in the middle of the season where he wasn't the same. And it's a long season too, and he was getting a lot of carries, but I think
he didn't play his senior year, Kirk. He didn't play his senior year of high school.
Yeah, neither did Jack.
He lost that year of development, because of the pandemic.
Yeah, I mean, Jack Sawyer is the same way, because they had him convinced that he was going to be playing football in we're going to have the January spring league, or all the craziness that we dealt with that year. It was like, Jack was like, well, I'm going to skip my senior year so I can be lifting and be ready for that. So, but I'm interested to see Jack too, because, there's a lot of hype around him last year. He was weighing 230, which is like a linebacker. So he got taught, that first game against Minnesota, I remember he went against Falele, the guy who weighs 400 pounds, and he just ejected him out of there like he was, some young pup. But, Jack's 270 now. So, I mean, he's really put in the work, and I don't think he wants to get embarrassed. He didn't have enough armor on his body last year, but now I think he's thickened up, and, he's built he's not the athlete that Nick or Joey Bosa are, but he's a very talented, tough kid, and he's an edgy kid. That's the thing about him and Mike Hill. Like, I get, the birdies that, tell me about what's going on. There's some guys that are chippy. They want to play. They get in fights, and I just worry, do we have enough teeth in our defense? Do we have enough guys that are really mean, nasty dudes? Because you need some mean, nasty dudes on your team. You can't just have a bunch of nice kids, and like, that's why, I love that we have TJ on the scoop now, because TJ was as mean as there's ever been. And, it was just fun, like, when you got guys like that, it's, and I mean, I'm not saying you got cheap shot guys or anything, but there's some guys that are just nasty, and that's what you want on your team, especially on the front of your defense. Like, when I played with Will Smith and Darian Scott, and those guys were just marauders, just mean dudes, and they were really good. And I loved Will Smith. He was my favorite player of all time, because I had to block him every day, and he taught me more about offensive tackle than anybody on earth. And I had to, again, with Will Smith, when you have to block him as a freshman who's never played tackle, it's like you get tough or you die. And I had to get real tough, because Will would whip me every day, and you just try to get whipped a little bit slower every time against a guy like Will. But any other thoughts? Give me a name of a guy that you hope to see maybe show out a little bit in the Notre Dame game. Maybe a guy who's under the radar a little bit. I mean, hell, it could be your boy Matt Jones, but give me a name of someone that you hope makes an impact. Is it one of the three safeties? Is it one of the linebackers? Who's the guy that you're hoping shows up for that Notre Dame game? A guy that we're going to need to play well to win and cover the spread.
Yeah, well, you mentioned Matt Jones, so let's start offensively there. And last year, Coach Stud, I thought, was in a really tough spot. He had to play those four tackles. There was no way you were going to bench one of those guys. But Matt Jones was not your sixth best lineman. He was your number 2, 3 lineman last year. He deserved to be starting. And don't ask me who I would have benched, because they were in a tough spot there, and I don't know who you benched, but Matt Jones deserved to be starting. So this year on offense, Matt Jones, I think, is a huge key, especially when you're trying to trigger that running game. So Matt Jones on offense would be my guy for sure. Defensively, I'll tell you a guy that I don't think I hear anyone talk about, and that's Tyleik Williams. And I can make a case that he was their best defensive tackle last year. I don't know if they thought that, but, the way that defense was constructed last year with Combs and Barnes, I don't know, how much confidence they inspired, but Tyleek Williams can really freaking play. Okay. And I think he should be a lot better this year, coming off a true freshman year. And I don't think people are going to be able to gash Ohio State up the middle the way it happened last year. Haskell was really bothered by a lot of injuries last year. And then they messed around with Taron Vincent and Cage and Antoine Jackson. Those guys weren't as good a football players as Tyleek Williams. And I don't care if he was a freshman or not. That guy in there, that guy needs to be there. And I think he's a key toward them, being able to stop the run this year. And when you look at that schedule, you look at Notre Dame, you look at Iowa, you look at Wisconsin, you look at Michigan, you look at Penn State, teams are going to try to run the ball on Ohio State. That's what those teams are known for. That's who they are. That's what they do. So, Matt Jones on offense triggers the running game. Tyleek Williams on defense stops the running game. And to me, those are two really key guys.
Yeah, I mean, I love it. I mean, I looked at that schedule, and it's a black and blue schedule. Like Mickey Marotti,
No
we used to
doubt.
go on.
No
We used to
doubt.
go on. We go on the road, and Mickey Marotti would always famously say, you got to pack your tough shirt, your tough shorts, your tough socks. Let's just pack your running game and pack your defense. Because you go to these tough environments, you got to be able to run the ball and you got to be able to stop the run. It's the only
No
way
doubt.
you can win on the road. And it just, when everything's going wrong and quarterbacks, I'm not saying CJ Stroud, but your quarterback's jittery or it's raining or snowing or crappy
never
out,
know.
you could run the ball in that. When I played at Michigan in 2007, it was 36 degrees and it rained. It was freezing rain for 4 hours. And Todd Beckman couldn't throw the ball because it was too slippery. The one time he threw a pick. So Tressel didn't call a pass in the entire second half of the game. We ran
He gave the
ISO
ball to
and
Beanie.
power every time. And I mean, and it was they weren't all 70-yard runs. It was a 2-yard run, a 3-yard run. It's like the body blows, 5-yard run. Because every time we do one of those little short runs, the O line is coming off on the D line, and we are bringing the wood on these guys. So it's eventually they get tired of it because it sucks, because you're getting just hammered play after play and double teamed, and guys D linemen don't want to deal with that. They want to rush the passer, So it's they hate getting leaned on by these big O linemen, and I think that Justin Fry's gonna have these guys running off the ball. I mean, that's his philosophy, and I love Justin Fry. I've known him for 10 years. I mean, I used to call him all the time when Urban was the head coach and I was working, and he said, "Hey, call Fry on this, call Fry on this." So I'd call him, "Hey, Justin, what's up? What do you guys do here?" And so I think the world of Justin. I think he's going to do a great job, and I'm excited for this one. But that being said, man, Bank, I appreciate you so much. This is a great show, man. I got to wrap this thing up. Any parting words for the Buckeye Scoop people? We got the Bank chat tomorrow because this is Wednesday's show.
Yeah.
Any parting words for the Scoop crew?
Yeah, no, not right now. I mean, we're going to start talking gambling, and that's always a popular subject. Getting ready for this season, that's always, it was a topic that you couldn't really talk about 20 years ago, to be honest. And now, it's legal and it's above, and ESPN and Fox do shows every day about gambling now. So we're going to start talking now. We're going to try to get Patio Harold to do a gambling podcast. He's talked about wanting to do it. I'm all in when he wants to do that. So we're going to start looking at that here real soon. That's my parting shot. Get ready for gambling because we're going at it again this year. And, it's a lot of fun. In Ohio, we'll have legalized gambling. I think the
January
target
1st.
date is by New Year's Day.
Yeah.
I think midnight, January 1, the books are going to be open. So foolishly, they didn't have the stuff ready by the start of football season, so they just threw away millions of dollars. But winter politicians are going to be smart, and they're not smart in this either. They should have had this thing ready to go now, but they're dumb. So, but we're going to start talking that. We want to do a podcast with Patio Harold and get his thoughts. He's amazing at this stuff, a lot better than I am. So that's the parting shot.
Perfect, Bank. Well, I appreciate you, brother. What a show with Bill the Bank Greene. We are on fire on BuckeyeScoop.com. The Bank chat is tomorrow. You want to get signed up for that because that one is always wild. If you guys enjoyed this episode, please leave us a like, subscribe to our channel, leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whatever your podcast platform is of choice. I can't tell you enough. Scoop family, I love you guys so much for blowing up. We are adding subscribers at a crazy rate. We're having a blast right now. If you haven't taken the leap and joined BuckeyeScoop.com, give us a shot. You might end up loving it, because I mean, a lot of people, they sign up and they can't believe what they've been missing for all these years. And the season's 3 weeks away, and you guys want to know what's going on in training camp, you know where to go. BuckeyeScoop.com. As always, thank you, Buckeye Nation. Thank you, Scoop family. Appreciate you guys so much. Have a great rest of your day. Go Bucks.